y'all. I'm Ellen. We've been super inspired by our journeys of self-healing and discovery.
And I'm Sam, and we want to share our experiences with you to help you get curious about yourself, reconnect, and get intentional about your life so you know what makes you happy.
Welcome to Woo New, the podcast. We are beyond excited today to be talking to Allison Pelissier. She's the founder of Traveling Light, and she works with the Lucia No.3 Light. And I've been following you for a while. I feel like it's been at least a year now, and I've never seen this light or experienced it in person. I've only seen videos and seen people talking about it and demonstrating, and it looks like magic to me. It's so rad. And so I'm just really excited to get into it with you and find out more about this light and the science behind it. So maybe we can first start out by just talking about what is the Lucia No.3 Light.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me today. And I also very much love the Lucia No.3. It's a lamp that uses solid light from a halogen bulb and then flickering light from LEDs at different frequencies. And basically, the person who's experiencing the light sits or lays down with their eyes closed, and then the solid and flickering light that's created into different sessions takes the person into a journey within. So it's super interesting because you have your eyes closed, but even though you have your eyes closed, you see all these colors and patterns that your brain is uniquely creating. And then it depends, each person has a totally different experience, but you can also see, kind of like visions or get understandings for things. And there's so many different ways you can work with it in terms of, what's your intention for the experience, or, getting more creative with projects, or dealing with more like trauma and PTSD, or just regulating the nervous system. So there's a lot of directions you can go from there.
Wow. I have a question about the flickering lights, actually, because so obviously these are LED lights, but I'll never forget this one time I was in college and we were in this huge auditorium, and you know how they put those fluorescent lights in all the rooms? Mm-hmm. We had this huge lecture where one of the students started having a seizure from the fluorescent lights. And I know sometimes flickering lights can cause seizures for people. And so I'm wondering, are there any health risks with using this, or is it because the LED lights are sort of take you into a journey within and it puts your brain in that sort of coherent state that's not an issue?
It's a good question. So yeah, a lot of people, as soon as they hear flickering light, they think of epilepsy or seizures.
Yes.
It's understandable because there definitely is a very small percentage of people that are so sensitive to light that when the light starts flickering at certain frequencies, they can have an overwhelm and a kind of seizure. So actually about, there's this very small percentage of people that have epilepsy. And then out of those people, only about 10% of them are light sensitive. So there definitely is a potential for someone to have a seizure with the Lucia No.3 if they're that light sensitive. That wouldn't be really the way that they would want to go forward. But these are also the same kind of people who could have a seizure, like you said, just from, a light.
Being in a room, yeah.
Yeah, or even being at a concert, or there's all these different kinds of situations when we're around flickering light and we're just not that aware of it. And, for most people, again, we have a different range of sensitivity for each person. And it is very interesting because seizures appear really scary for us, and for people with, epilepsy who have reoccurring seizures and have, it can be really harsh on the body and super intense for them. But it's also very interesting because I looked into this more when I was getting started with the Lucia, and I learned some interesting facts about certain people. For example, the Prophet Muhammad from Islam. He actually would have seizures and kind of go into the space where he was connecting with a higher source. And then a lot of the information, like he would say the Quran afterwards, which was this like super sacred words. And so it's super interesting, even like, so some people find it to be a very like euphoric experience. And I think overall, the reason why it's scary for people to even think about or see, or they're like proceed with caution if something like that could happen, is because when someone's in that type of experience, you can't connect with them. You can't see them through their eyes. They're not there. They're, out of body. And so I just find it very interesting. It's like, yes, they're definitely, one of the inventors, Lucia No.3, said, anything beautiful is dangerous. And he actually looks at the Lucia as being such a powerful experience that if there wasn't a potential for kind of like overwhelm from the system for super like hypersensitive people to light, then it wouldn't be as powerful. I mean, we can make things that are designed to be not dangerous at all, but like look at cars, for example. They're powerful, and that power also has danger with it, right? It's like people get in car accidents all the time. Yeah, every day people just get in their car and don't even think about it. And so it's very interesting when you think about something like a seizure, because yeah, it's definitely a potential with any type of flickering light situation, but it's super rare.
So it sounds like the light basically puts you into sort of a hypnotic state, or like a deeper brainwave state. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, what happens with any type of outside rhythmic stimulation, which is what the flickering light is, your brainwaves start to be influenced by that. And that's called entrainment. So that's brainwave entrainment. And the Lucia light gets you to the hypnagogic state of consciousness, which is this beautiful place between being awake and being asleep. And that's represented in brainwaves through being in kind of like alpha and theta. So, and often people think of brainwaves as being like, oh, you're only in the theta state or you're in beta state. And it's not quite that simple, because each brainwave is actually like a rhythm, and those rhythms are all happening all the time. It's just depending on the amplitude. So kind of you can think of like the volume of that rhythm in your brain. So when you're in the really thinking active state like I am now, this is going to be more beta because I'm getting information out there. So that just means that the amplitude of my beta waves in my brain are going higher. Then as you go into an experience like the Lucia, you get super relaxed and start going into this state where you get into more of the alpha and theta waves. And that's where a lot of like creative breakthroughs can happen, or people have deeper understandings or insights. And ultimately, what the Lucia works towards is getting all of your brain waves to be in this harmonized patterning together. And that the neurologist who invented the Lucia No.3, Dr. Dirk Prockel, calls this harmonics. And it's super interesting and really rare, but you actually see, like when you play a singing bowl, there's a bunch of different notes, but they're actually all, in octaves of each other. So your brain waves actually look like that on an EEG when you go really deep into Lucia experience. So it's pretty fascinating.
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
this is so cool.
I know. Well, we talk about journeys a lot because I'm a breathwork facilitator, so I take people on journeys through breathwork, and Sam's a Reiki master, and we work a lot together and offer kind of joint offerings in that way, and it's super healing and therapeutic. And I've just recently started learning how to do shamanic journeying as well, but I haven't ever experienced anything physical with a light. And I mean, having just been a raver in in my younger days, I can only imagine, because yeah, I would always find myself just wanting to sit there and stare at the light and just kind of go into this, just a more deeper meditative state, and it was just something that happened naturally. But I'm curious, like, how did you even stumble across this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I first experienced Lucia. I was actually in grad school studying international education and development in England, and my father passed away kind of in the middle of my schooling, so I ended up taking some time off and then going back to it. And when I went back, I just felt like I wasn't in the same space. I had, after he passed away, I had a lot of PTSD coming up and nightmares, and I just wasn't in my body. And, I was still doing as well as I could, considering, but it was a struggle and it was challenging. And a friend of mine actually just invited me to come to this art gallery and try this light thing, and I was like, I like light. I love sunlight, like, okay. And I had some initial resistance, but because I didn't really want to do anything, I was just kind of like, want to be home. And yeah, and I ended up going, and, they just put me under this without having any idea what it was. And I had a really powerful journeying experience. I mean, I went straight through like the colors and patterns, which also can be very journeying and, deep for people. But I went through that, and I had an experience where I met with my father who had passed away, and we had this beautiful, connection. And he told me it's okay to be happy. And I really, yeah, it was super powerful. And I really came back to my body. I feel like I'd been out of body and, just trying to manage, but not in a really stable place. And it just kind of brought me back home, and the nightmares and everything went away. And I started being able to do the next layer of work within myself, to find more freedom within. And so, yeah, it's definitely, you talk about breath work and, other journeying, and there's definitely lots of different ways to get to these spaces, that are really altered states of consciousness, but they can also be thought of as like expanded states of consciousness. And the Lucia Light is another tool that can really bring you there. And in fact, I've actually enjoyed with certain kind of, we call them more advanced light travelers, doing breath work under the Lucia, which is really powerful. And yeah, it's a similar thing in the sense that, it takes you just beyond this reality. And so, a lot of people can meditate for decades and still not really be able to get to that place where their mind just shuts off and they are in this peace and connectivity. And that's one of the things that Lucia really works with is, often for people, if your nervous system is so wound up that you won't be able to actually access those types of spaces because you're still on high alert, your sympathetic system is being activated, and, nothing is actually feels safe to you at a primal level. So you're really operating from that space. And so it's obviously very hard to like sit and meditate because your body's still on guard, and the Lucia really helps with that deep relaxation and kind of trance type energy that just helps you let go really of all these layers that we don't even realize we're holding on to.
That's really incredible. And I actually want to dig in a little bit deeper into this because just even comparing it to breath work, I find with some of the people that come, some of my clients, they even have trouble getting there with breath work. And it's very difficult for them to shut off the monkey mind, And
I was totally one of those people at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, especially because we live, so many of us live in our brain, in our heads, and we're kind of taught that is where you should be and that's how you should solve all your problems. And, and so I feel like the mind gets overworked, and you're kind of in your ego. But I find that, with some people, it's very difficult for them to let go, even with their breath, which is kind of almost like using your physiology to hijack that system, right? And to kind of get it activated so that you can get into those deeper states. But I'm curious with the light, because it's almost, you're basically passively laying there and receiving, which I find really fascinating because there's no like real effort on your part. You're just kind of basically surrendering and receiving that. Do you often, or do you ever have people who can't get into those deeper states even just by receiving that light treatment?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's pretty rare with the Lucia because it's interesting. It's, there's that passive element to it for sure, but there's also this really intense element to it that, almost like you just have to let go, because it kind of gets more and more intense. It's like you're like, oh, you're under this light, but it's like, it's just a light, but the colors and patterns are just like changing so quickly and like coming towards you, and the more you kind of resist it, the more intense it gets. And so as you
Oh my
kind
gosh.
of you like, it's a process of like letting go to like let the light in and like be able to actually even receive that. And as you go through that process, it's another opportunity for your nervous system, because in life, when things get intense, if we resist, it just gets more intense,
100%. Yeah.
And so it's very interesting because it's not really that passive in the sense that there's an active letting go process. And then at a certain point in the session, the physiology just kind of takes over and you can just see people let go, like their body just like lets go in a way that, they didn't even realize they're holding tension in certain places or things like that. It's just a really deep letting go. And that's usually about 15 minutes into the session. So it really depends on the person in terms of like whether their mind's still going or not. For some people, it's more like, how you can get stuck on certain thought loops, like,
Mhm.
whether that's, oh, I shouldn't have said this, or like I acted like that, or like this person said this, or, I'm
The
afraid.
shame spiral.
Exactly. The inner shame spiral, or the fear cycle for the world, or how other people are showing up, or what's going to happen next. I mean, you can choose from quite a few these days if you want to. But if you get into that space, it can be really challenging to shift on a deeper level because you're in like a holding pattern. And so the Lucia really helps to kind of distract you with beauty. It's like, oh,
Wow.
look at all this beauty here. It's colors, it's pattern. Like, wow. And so people just kind of get into more of the wow zone, and then their body eventually like really relaxes, even if the mind is taking a while to get there. Most people kind of get there very quickly, like almost immediately get into that space. And then, there's the stubborn ones who are just, they've put so much power into their mental body that to like take it offline feels like a loss of identity on some level, So I think for those people, it can take a little bit longer to get into the light, but with a series of sessions, which is what we recommend, which is at least about 6 sessions, you start learning to really work with the energy of the light and to come into that conscious letting go energy. And then when life happens, which continues, challenges arise, we have an opportunity to actually choose how we respond instead of just react. And that's a huge, huge, huge element. And I think, breathwork really does that as well. But the light kind of gets you faster in terms of really getting that mind clear, getting the body fully relaxed. And then, you can make it, if you want to take it to the next level and like amp it up and make it more intense and bring in the breath, you can do like more intensive breath work, or you can even just do like relaxing breath work with it to help your whole system stabilize.
So there's like different settings on the light. Is that the way it kind of works? Like in terms of intensity?
Yeah, totally. So it's very interesting because each person, again, on the spectrum of sensitivity, we spoke from the beginning about like, people who could have seizures who are extremely, extremely sensitive to light. And then on the other end, there's people who are just like full power, like the intensity being the brightest possible. And they're like, okay, like I've had maybe about 2 or 3 people in my whole time giving sessions of 6 years, but they're like, does it get more intense, And so really everyone's different. So there's a lot of different sessions on the Lucia. The practitioner system has about 160 or 70 different sessions. And it's more interesting to think about them in terms of like being like different songs. So they're all kind of uniquely created with a combination of frequencies and designed to be also visually appealing, like interesting. So you can really choose, like there's different intensity levels, and the intensity has to do more with like the brightness of the light. And also if there's a lot of transitions between frequencies slash or brightnesses, which you perceive as being like changes of colors and patterns and things like that. Or there's more sessions that are like really staying more in one space for longer. And so each session just has a simple name, and then it's more about this like intuitive process of tuning into where you're truly at or where your client is at in that moment. And that can range from day to day. I mean, even for myself, it's been so interesting, especially during this quarantine period. I'm like, oh, I've been home a lot more, so I have my light set up in my healing space, and I do sessions almost every day recently. And it's been just fascinating to see how each day I'm in a totally different place. And some days, there's little demonstration sessions where you can kind of check what intensity level you're resonating with. And some days I'm like, oh yeah, I need a strong one. I'm ready to do this. And then it's so funny because sometimes that energy is actually not in alignment with my body, and my body's like, no. I think you just need to relax right now, and so it's really interesting process because, each session you kind of tune in first with the demonstration sessions to just see what you're truly resonating with at that moment and then choose from there. So, and then again, it's like sometimes you think you're going in to just relax. I'm like, oh yeah, this will just be a nice relaxing one. And I just have these, amazing visions, and like my guides come in and I have like beings talking to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like seeing things or getting, auditory downloads, like understandings. And other times it's just like, just very relaxing, and I can just feel like layers of tension that I was holding in different parts of my body just releasing. Sometimes it's like moving through an emotion and then finding this like really deep expansive peace underneath that. Every session's different, so it's really great to
oh my gosh. I have so many questions.
I know.
This is so cool. So can you do remote sessions with this? And how long is a typical session from start to finish?
Yeah, so remote sessions don't work, unfortunately. There's a way, obviously, I work with energy, so I can hold the same kind of container, but you can't really experience the light from a distance. But generally, the sessions go. So the demonstrations always happen first. So we usually say a session is an hour, but that includes kind of a guided relaxation and some shorter demonstration sessions, and then a longer session about 20 to 40 minutes, which is your kind of deeper immersion into the experience. So it ends up being about an hour for the full thing.
And are you listening to music the whole time?
Yeah, so another great question. So music is such a powerful tool for us anyway, and even if you don't have a light and you're like, here, like, wow, how do I do this? It's like, I mean, here we go. Breath work, music.
Right.
Like, some of the most powerful ways to kind of get out of your mind into this full presence. So music's a very important part of the experience. You can actually do the light without music, which is very interesting. It kind of keeps you more like noticing and aware of like what's going on in your head or like brain, or like consciousness. But you can also choose whatever type of music you would like. And like, for example, I love working with solfeggio frequencies. That's like very soothing and like music, meditative type style. Or I have in my healing room here in Boulder, I have singing bowls. So I really love doing the singing bowls and sometimes like gongs and other sound healing because they have so many layers of, being that vibration that's actually in the air as well. But you can also do things like shamanic drumming or, I've had all kinds of clients. I mean, I've had people who want to do psytrance, like listen to psytrance during it and are just like,
wow.
And then
it would be so crazy.
Yeah. And on the other end of the spectrum, I had a client who just begged me to listen to this Britney Spears song that he was so into. And I was like, well, if you really, because generally we don't recommend going with words because words are kind of directing your awareness versus like being open to like that allowing space. But, for him, he loved, I don't remember what song it was, but he loved the song so much. And he was just singing and crying. And like, it was just this whole thing. I was like, if you really resonate with the words and the message, he's like, yes. And so, he had the super incredible experience of listening to something that already really spoke to his soul and then being able to be in this kind of like immersion with it. So yeah, the doorways are open with music, and there's a lot of epic possibilities for sure.
Oh my God. I'm like, I'm already sold on this. Like,
I
I
know, me
literally am going
too.
to like want to talk to you offline and about purchasing one and integrating it into my breathwork practice. But holy moly, everything you just said about, every session being different and where you are that day or that moment being different. I mean, it's almost like verbatim what I tell my clients during breath work too, because you are
Mm-hmm.
constantly shifting and changing. And so that resonates so much with me. Um, and I love the fact that I don't know, it's like we keep on finding these different tools and modalities that are just different ways of working with your body, which ultimately is the healer, right? Like it's you're
Mm-hmm.
tapping into your body, and your body's the 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 vessel or the being that's kind of delivering the wisdom and the healing and stuff. And I don't know, I find it so fascinating because I feel like where we're at right now in our evolution as a species, we have gone so far that simple things like sitting and meditating sometimes just don't work, to your point earlier. And it's like these tools are kind of coming about, and I can't help but relate this also to sort of the rise in psychedelic medicine interest. And I'm curious, like, how do you connect the two, or if you do at all, like a psychedelic journey and something like the Lucia Light
Mm-hmm.
journey?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Lots of good questions. I hear myself keep saying that. That's a good sign. But yeah, so, well, first of all, I just want to say too that it is so interesting. And, a lot of people say, like, oh, well, these old methods, like they work, they're tried and true. And that's absolutely true. And this modern world has a lot going on. I mean, there's
Mm.
just even from the EMFs and, the changes in the radiation from the sun. I mean, there's like so many layers of like what we're being exposed to and what's around us. And just like, I mean, look at like TikTok. Someone showed me that recently. I'm like, oh my God, it's like
I
crazy.
just got on. I
Oh
know.
my God.
I'm
It's like
just
all,
exploring it now.
it's so intense. It's like kind of like crack or something. It's just like this really intensive, like it's funny and stuff, but it's like so stimulating. So there's all
Mhm.
these things in this modern world that are just completely different than what we faced before. And I think that's also why, we were in a holding pattern as a species for a while, and just like getting really comfortable with like the way that we were interacting with the earth, and like all of that, and it turned into abuse because it just felt comfortable for us. And now I think the
Mhm.
medicines, like the psychedelic, especially the plant medicines, are really coming forward to say, hey, like, let me remind you what's going on here,
Mhm.
and your deeper power. And so it's been interesting with plant medicine. And obviously, I think a lot of people, the easiest way for them to understand the light is to compare it to a psychedelic experience. And I'm sure you maybe find that with breath work as well, because there is a
Mhm.
comparison, right? There is this kind of, anytime we're going outside of our, which is literally called our default mode network, it's a certain network in the brain that's on, that keeps us really on point. So we remember to, brush our teeth in our morning. We remember like what our values are. We have these certain patternings that we hold on to in our consciousness that help us live our life without having to overthink things, right? And those are really important and critical to our being. And actually people, so when you use like work with psychedelics, you have this experience where that default mode network actually gets turned down. So instead of just thinking of things the way that you thought of them before, you can actually access multiple perspectives and different ways of understanding things. And that can be super powerful. And the Lucia Light operates in a very similar way, in the sense that it also helps turn down your default mode network and get you into this like deeper space where the subconscious can actually speak with and kind of dance with the conscious. And that looks different for different people. Sometimes people feel it in their body. Sometimes they identify that the color had some deeper meaning for them. There's all these different ways in which that can be understood, whether you're more of a symbolic person, a body awareness person, or a visual person. I mean, there's no better way to understand. But the difference that comes between the Lucia Light and doing a psychedelic experience is that you're not taking anything in. You're not taking any entheogens or altering your brain chemistry. or dealing, you know, with the physical realities of some of these medicines. And, you know, each person has their own path. These are all powerful tools, but it's really getting to know what your body wants, what your spirit wants, and understanding that something like a Lucia could be more like a, you know, our breath work is more like a microdose in terms of slower change towards something more aligned. And, you know, you can have really deep experiences with both breath work and the light. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, something that's not as powerful, but it's something where you're more grounding it in your like sober consciousness. You know what I mean? So I find in a way it's, you know, more lasting, because sometimes people have these huge experiences with psychedelics and it's just like they can't even integrate it into their life, or they just get so addicted to the high or the realizations or the, you know, things that happen in these plant medicine experiences that they just want more of that instead of actually doing that integrative work. And I think tools like the Lucia actually help find that balance between having these really powerful and deep experiences and the integration through the nervous system. And another difference too is, of course, if you wanted to stop at any point, you can just stop it. And if you're on a psychedelic journey and you're 8 hours in, you can't just be like, can we just like pause here for a minute? I kind of want to just like process what's going on from like a sober kind of consciousness, you know? And people can have, you know, very intense experiences with psychedelics that are not positive. And if they don't have an ability to even communicate what's happening for them, they can get stuck in loops. And, you know, lots of things can happen with plant medicines and psychedelics. And, you know, I truly believe in their power. And I also just know that for a lot of people, they're not ready for that. And maybe doing that all the time isn't actually ultimately as helpful as doing some more like embodiment type practices and kind of coming back to the truth that we have within, you know, and trusting our inner instinct. And so, you know, it's great that, you know, you do breath work, because I just love breath work so much in that same way, that these are modalities that are really close to who we already are. You know, they're like, they're us. It's like an extension of our natural biology instead of taking something to like leave this state, you know?
That's a really great answer. It almost reminds me of like, it's almost kind of like, I don't know, kind of getting into the pool slowly versus like cannonballing in and like not really sure like where the like the bottom is, you know? Yeah, that resonates with me so much.
Yeah. And there's ways you can use both of these to integrate, you know, psychedelic experiences as well. Because again, I think that every person, this is a great time to be alive, because although things are intense and uncertain, there's more freedom and more ability to be sovereign and choosing your own path and choosing what works for you. It's like, you don't have to just do what works for other people. I mean, if plant medicine is your jam, then awesome, like rock it. And then if you want to integrate it and bring it closer in, you could work with the Lucia Light or breath work or, you know, other things. So there's like all these different ways. It's like a choose your own adventure, really. You know, it's like finding what really resonates with you on your path and kind of really getting clear to like listen into when it is a yes and when it is a no.
I love that. Something you said earlier too, it's been like kind of just circling my mind. And you were talking about the beautiful lights and patterning and things that just almost give you this sense of awe when you're experiencing the light. And I remember reading something a while back about being out in nature and being in these beautiful, beautiful, you know, like seeing the views of, you know, from mountaintops and just taking it all in gives you this sense of awe. And what it does for your ego is it kind of puts your ego in its place, right? It makes you feel small, but also still significant in the same way. And I'm curious if that's also kind of what is happening with the light too, where it is this sense of awe that you almost, I mean, I'm like working it out right now as I'm talking, but it's almost like by being kind of drawn into this beauty and this like, you know, awesome spectacle, you are able to recede from your monkey mind, which is where your ego sort of exists, and let go and give in.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And really what the Lucia Light is showing us, and for me, I really believe nature is also an extension of this as well, but the Lucia Light's even closer to home, is it's a reflection of you and your beauty. So it's interesting because we're like doing so much work to like avoid the ego and turn the ego off and all of that. But there's actually a healthy ego that's there and actually can be, kind of lacking in certain people, especially on the spiritual path, when you forget to recognize and honor and just love the beauty that's within you, because we have
Mm.
so much that we're radiating, and that same beauty that's within us is within everyone. And so the Lucia Light gives you an opportunity to reflect on that, and that absolute awe and joy like reduces the ego in certain ways, but also empowers the other side of the ego, which is more of stepping into our true power of what we're here to do, and remembering that the little ego struggles of like the tension and the pain and the worry and the grief and all of these things are beautiful, and we can be with them in a way that dissolves them into this like more radiance of like the visions that you're seeing. And I feel very similarly when I'm in nature in terms of like, I'm here in Boulder, I love hiking, and every time you get these vistas or even just take a moment to look at this tiny little wildflower or have these incredible interactions with nature, you realize it's more than just you, and it gives you this like empowerment of like wanting to show up in a way that's supporting this beauty.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like putting a little dot on a giant picture, and you realize like each interaction affects the others, and it just like ripples out from there.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to shift how you're acting within it. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it brings us closer to home, because we're all going through this. And if we can, there's so much division right now between, like, do you wear a mask or do you not wear a mask? Do you do this or do you not do that? And there's, it doesn't have to be, those hard lines. And I think that's another thing that the Lucia helps with. And, these experiences that are beyond like the monkey mind and the analysis and the needing to understand everything and put everything in a box. You can realize like they help you move to more of a witness state, where you're actually able to observe these different aspects of your ego, your personality, of things that you've developed over the years with compassion, even within yourself and then within others. Like once you can reach that with yourself, when you're approached with other situations of others who are really trying to be divisive and create that polarity, there's a spaciousness where you can honor what they're saying and reflect that you see them and not need to like jump on their boat or like make it more intense. You can bring it more towards a unitive sense. And to me, that's really the path that we're on with all of this, is just getting to a space where we can really see and hear each other, and respond to each other, and connect more and become really building this grid of light around the world, is of us all connecting in our highest alignment, instead of just like the lower consciousness of us versus them.
I'm curious, as we're kind of getting into this too, with some of the clients that you've been seeing recently, do you see common things coming up in them, like maybe just even common shadows that they're working through that the light has been helping with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of shadow can come from like wanting to help but not knowing how. And often we just, really disregard just who we are and how we treat others in our lives and how we treat ourselves, and the little things that we can do that can mean so much. I think there's a lot of people transitioning from doing, work in offices and things like that they don't actually feel aligned with, to finding their passion and knowing how to follow that. And a lot of that is actually just really trusting ourselves. So like a lot of the shadow can just be from overwhelm or, insecurity, or not being sure what to do next, or or even just being overwhelmed with how much caretaking they're doing. I mean, my favorite clients are those who are also helping others. I mean, it's a theme for me of working with, I give the trainings in the US for the Lucia Light, and A lot of that is just like, there's these layers of space holders. So I really enjoy holding space for people who hold space for others. And that doesn't mean that they're even a practitioner. It could be a mother or, anyone. Sometimes even as a child, you're actually get to the point where you're taking care of your parents. So it's, knowing that even as someone who holds space, you can have space held for you is so important, and really taking that time for that self-care to make things happen. And I mean, most people I work with the Lucia are at least at like a certain stage of consciousness where they're ready and excited to do this work with themselves, or at least curious about it. But, each person has their own beautiful path and things that arise for them.
That's incredible. I love that I mean, I don't know, this has been coming up also in my breathwork sessions too, where I've become so much more conscious of the fact that whoever shows up that day, it's not a coincidence, and that they are very much there holding space for each other as much as they are there working through some of their own things, and releasing whatever they need to release. And I'm there kind of, guiding and holding space for the group, but really it's the connection between those who've shown up in the group that has become so powerful for me and so healing for me, even as the guide, I don't know. I just find that so beautiful. It is really not just this like directional, like one way direction down, but it very much is this sort of like interconnection and web that is being formed. And then by the work that they're doing, it's radiating outward and rippling outward and touching everybody else and really changing the energy in the world itself. And so, yeah, it's really, I mean, it's magic. I feel like all of this stuff is just so fascinating. And I feel like very kind of honored to be a part of the work and in bringing healing and holding healing spaces for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like too in those sessions, everybody's energy interacts completely differently. So we'll walk away from any healing session. It's like, wow, the energy was so full of love tonight. Or, oh my gosh, there was so much releasing. And it's like they all are attracted to each other because they, in that like symbiotic relationship, they can release something together.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I really felt that in the group sessions with the Lucia as well, that there is reason people get drawn together. And it's powerful how when we gather to do things collectively, and whether that's just at home too during these times. I mean, tuning into some of the big things that are happening right now and participating where we are making a huge shift, and it does ripple out. And so anyone who's doing self-work, like, thank you, because it's not just for you, it's for all of us. Like, we all feel it every time someone really moves something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much so. How many people can actually do a session with a Lucia Light at once?
Well, so there's two different Lucia Light models. There's the practitioner system, and then there's the home portal. And with the practitioner system, you can set it up like on a tripod, and then the tripod, you can get about 6 people under the light at a time.
Oh, wow.
So their heads are together. And then on the home portal, it's really one person. Could be 2 people if they're like really close together, but it's really like an individual lamp.
Gotcha. Okay. Man, I'm like, I'm like processing all this stuff right now. Like, okay, I really want to integrate this into my practice. What piece of wisdom have you received just in your whole journey, going through just even grieving your father and finding this light? And I'm just curious, like, what do you feel like you've gained just through doing this work and working with this light?
Well, a big thing that came through for me was, as I mentioned, I was doing a master's in international education and development. And there was always this drive since I was little of really wanting to help others. And for me, it's really come to the point where I realized that the best way you can help anyone is hold space, and whether that's just listening to them process or, guiding them on some kind of experience like breath work or holding space for a light session, just allowing them to see themselves and to be heard is so profound. And it just can't be, overstated of how we need that with each other. And, my journey with the light has been, so rich. And, I noticed, like a part of myself as I was going through this whole process that really wanted, to, I guess to be received in giving, or like needing someone to care about where I was or something. And I actually had a very powerful experience where I came back to that sovereign self, and realized that everything is here. Like anything that you're looking for in the world is already inside of you. So if you're looking for something, in a relationship or in a work situation or in your family, there's so much of, what we truly need that we can find within ourselves. And the stuff that we can't find within ourselves, we can open that, like create a life that includes that in a healthy way. And so that was a big shift for me. I mean, really going from having ideas, but being like blown around by life so much, to being able to realize how much I was in that seeking zone and be able to come back to my own center, realize how much I love myself, and then therefore am able to create a life that really supports, my passions, but also that my ability to care for myself and care for those I love.
I feel like the theme of empowerment and coming back to your own truth, coming back to yourself as the place of healing and, finding your wholeness in the healing, but realizing that you literally have everything you need to heal inside of yourself that theme has been resonating throughout this entire quarantine, like this whole year, really. I feel like it's kind of reached this feverish high pitch in all the interviews we've been doing and conversations we've been having, coming through some of the breathwork sessions I've been holding, to this idea that like, yeah, I am a powerful being. I have everything I need. I don't need to go out to be healed. I just need to find it within myself and to invest in myself and support myself through this. And obviously, you receive support from others holding space for you. But I find that one theme has been so resonant. And I really, like, as I'm looking at this particular modality, the light, and how it allows you to just let go and surrender. I mean, the idea of like empowerment and also surrendering and receiving, it goes hand in hand. It's this idea that, like, in a weird way, like letting go of the idea that you control everything is part of that empowerment,
I think a huge part of that too is trust, like having the trust and the courage to work on those things, and getting to them through modality like breath work is like really incredibly empowering, but also, to your point, Ellen, can be a little bit challenging, especially in the beginning. So I think the idea of like being able to access these other tools to even if it's just to understand what that place feels like. So when you are able to access it again, maybe through other modalities, you feel like a peace there.
Yeah.
That allows you to like continue journeying farther. And that's hugely courageous.
Yeah. Yeah. How do people find a Lucia Light facilitator or guide?
Yeah, so my website is lucialightexperience.com, and we have a list of practitioners there. So you can click on like book a session, and then they show what's going on. And there's some new exciting things are opening soon. Like there's a few new light guides coming on, and I'm still doing a little bit of traveling around. Like I'll be actually in LA at the end of August.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
So,
Yay.
Are you doing a training session?
Yeah, I'm giving a training at a spa that's opening in Santa Monica, which is going to be really exciting.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're called Into Me See. So it's like intimacy, but into me see, SEA. They're going to have like float tanks and things as well. So that'll be really beautiful. And I'll be also doing home visits and in sessions while I'm out there. But yeah, so you can just check out on the Lucia Light Experience homepage, on my Instagram, which is Traveling Light Machine. I also post different places that I'll be going next and updates and things like that as well.
Awesome. I'm totally hitting you up in August.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
That's so rad. Thank you so much, Allison. Oh my gosh. I'm like literally, I feel like I'm buzzing right now because I'm so excited about experiencing this firsthand and then also integrating this into my practice. This is incredible.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me. It's really wonderful conversation and just always, beautiful to connect with other incredible people who are bringing these healing modalities and, holding space for the world to get through these growing pains and come into our full power. So
yeah, and thank you for sharing this, especially in the middle of COVID right now when people need, more help than ever just to sort of stay in a place of balance. And like, what an amazing gift this is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a gift to share.
Truly.
For sure.
Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.